hands behind back, glutes contract first, then shoulders stay above hips through the ascent. Flat bench is the standard I use in the bodyweight hamstring curl, aka Nordic. First published in 1880, just fighting the way down, using whatever you could to hold down your heels. My favorite being the Nord stick, because you can use it from home without a partner. And 21 years ago, Bert Soren of Sorenex made the first commercially friendly bench. After we watched Adam Archuleta do weighted full reps, which was the culmination of a 6-year plan his trainer set up that took him from high school scrub to NFL first round pick. But the first video evidence of measurable form came from Marty St. Louis, a hockey player who went from undrafted to MVP, Stanley Cup champion, and the oldest player in history to lead the league in scoring. That fired me up, and 2.5 years later, I did my first rep. While realizing that fighting the way down or elevating the bench mean this exercise is not just for millionaire athletes. And while this is only one of 28 different standards I work on in my body, it relates very heavily to knees and athleticism, which were my 2 biggest personal downfalls. So I'm very grateful to those who paved the way and made this accessible. And now for YouTube, a casual, unscripted, why do I choose the Nordic? And if you're doing my programs, how could you use other knee flexion exercises? So the knee pushing that way would be knee extension. Pulling would be knee flexion. The Nordic is just one of those ways. The most common in gym is going to be a hamstring curl machine. A hamstring curl machine, you set the weight, maybe the best for bodybuilding purposes to pump up the area. To get this kind of effect on the way down, you would need someone to put their hands and pull it down, or you would need to use like 2 legs up on the machine, drop a leg, and then fight down with 1 leg. So both of those would allow you to do what a Nordic does, which is to get so much force on the way down, because even at my level, on the way up, I'm getting momentum there from the glutes. So even at my level, I'm still getting more tension on the way down. After all these years, it looks like about 5 years that I've been doing this on average once a week for 3 sets of 5. And I'll probably still be sore from today from shooting this. So think about that hamstring curl machine, very good. Even pumping up knee flexion, I would rather have over no knee flexion. You then do have the price. You could buy a fleet of these. You could buy 5 or more of these for the price of 1 hamstring curl machine. So there's a lot of different factors. And I like the fact that with this, you can't not adapt. And you do this once a week over years and years and years. Look at these stories with Marty St. Louis, Adam Archuleta. Adam Archuleta had a 6-year plan on this. That's very different from just going and pumping up an area, which you could probably do that year after year and kind of stay the same. And we're not just doing this to try to get bigger hamstrings. So we're doing this, if you look at the way down, I'm also pressing through the toes there. So this connection, you really feel it gets back in like behind the knees. So I'm doing this more than anything for this connection there to literally stabilize my knees, reduce knee injuries in sport. So hamstring curl machine, awesome. An interesting historical note is that Tom Platz, who was known for like the best legs ever, and when I do these knee over toe squats like that, this is an ability I'm super happy to have. The fact that I can go all the way down without unlocking the glutes. Tom was doing this with weight. So he's almost like, what do you do if you're like me, but like a bodybuilder? Tom Platz, he was way ahead of the game, and he would instinctively pull down on the hamstring curl. So people would lift up. So he was doing eccentric overload on the hamstring curl. He was doing knees over toes. And no, he didn't just blow out his knees. He's actually has the strongest knee longevity that there is known in bodybuilding. He's in his 60s, can still get out into this position, and he's actually squatting weights all the way down in his 60s. And I'm not even talking about trying to do this stuff to extremes. So interesting historical note with Tom Platz there that he was working eccentric. Now the next common thing, which does give you that press of the toes, I think that's really important if you're going to be going heavy. And that's also why I like that Nord stick, is because you can press against the wall. You can press that calf muscle. It seems to lock it in. Well, a glute ham raise, also more expensive, bulkier, but still really good method. That you get to press the toes. As you go down the hip pad, the pressure shifts from the knee to the hip. So it's fine. It's a good balanced activity. And guess what? You can still get eccentric overload by using a bar and bending your hips at the bottom use it. So you're going all the way down, you're getting momentum now. So now when you're working on the way down, you're doing so like with a bar on your back. So you can still get that eccentric overload. Definitely a, maybe a more advanced movement. And again, based on where the pad is, the difficulty shifts significantly. So I still, after all these years, this is the one I've seen that makes the best long-term transformations, because you just, as I said earlier, you can't escape the adaptation. It doesn't get too tricky or complicated. And I have a fundamental belief that the closer we get to the truth on a subject, the simpler that subject becomes. It's been working out well so far. So those are the main ones: hamstring curl machines and glute ham machines. Those are how you could use that eccentric overload on the way down, but also why I still chew this. Not to mention, I can take this with me anywhere. I can pack this in a backpack and I can work on the way down anywhere. So that's pretty huge. I do want to shout out these companies. Bert Soren has been incredibly kind. I found out the history that he was the originator of this bench. So my inclination is just to market his bench rather than make my own. Meanwhile, the Nordic, the Nord stick I posted about in May, and it did really well for their sales. I didn't know who runs it or anything. I saw it. It seemed like a really good product. I used that from home for the last 6 months. Did my once a week from home, just working the way down. No Nordic bench for the last 6 months. Well, the guy who made it reached out, made this in America with ATG on it, honestly, without me like even knowing, and we're splitting the commissions on it, and I will be able to give my members, this is for sale right now. My members can get 20% off, which is what I try to do with every piece of equipment I make, is not try to make money on members. If non-members want to buy it, I appreciate the 20%, and that's huge support. Meanwhile, the members are supporting me, so this is a cool thing I can do to flow back. So now I've got 2 great options from anywhere with this, and this is still so bang for the buck. Some people have reported back over the years. I used to have kind of a thing of like, if you want to get a college scholarship or be a professional athlete, before you buy your video game set, get a Nordic bench in the garage. And people are actually getting scholarships and making it pro. And one of my original online members is going to the Olympics in bobsled, where you have to be a freak of hamstrings and pulling the ice. Your shoe sticks in, so it's like sprinting with more muscle to move the sled, and then even more tension on the hamstrings because that shoe digs in. So huge fans of these. They clearly make the subject simple. They have results. And by scaling the height and or just working the way down, which that in itself, there is nothing wrong with bending your hips and just working at whatever tension you can over time. So hopefully this little breakdown helps. Truly makes my day. Every weekend I put up that YouTube video and I see the comments and the people who like knowing these extra details. So got the scripted thing, not going to leave out the scripted, which is what has generated the most awareness, but just trying to do a casual, no second takes, as if you were here with Lucky and I in the garage. It seems to have some value of just unscripted, trying to give you the full picture, the full data. Thank you so much. Peace.